Hi, it's Chris at the Quilter's Nook, and it's time for another Studio 180 design technique. And today we're going to talk about flock of birds. So this is the technique we're going to do, and this is the block that you're going to make. Good thing about this technique is you will recognize, if you've watched the previous videos, that this looks very similar to our shaded 4-patch. We have a square, 2 triangles, and a large triangle. The only difference is this unit right here, okay? So what we're gonna start with is making that unit. So we're gonna make our half square triangles like we have done in the past, where you take your 2 squares, you're gonna draw lines, 1/4 inch away from center, sew on those lines, cut it apart, and you're gonna end up with 2 half square triangles. When we trim these, we are not going to trim all the way around. We are only going to trim the part that's going to go in the center, which in my case is this print. And we are going to cut to 2.5 inches in my case. So I'm going to take the 2.5 inch sizing guide, and I'm going to put that right in the middle on our seam, so that the common diagonal runs through this edge, okay? All right, trim that away. And we need 2 for this technique because we get 2 blocks, if you remember the other technique. So we're gonna put the 2.5 on the seam line. Common diagonal runs through our other point, and we're gonna trim. Okay. Now we need some rectangles. So we have 2 rectangles, and when we put our triangles on here, we're going to put the piece that we cut in the upper left corner, and we're going to line it up with the top and the side. There is extra, and that's perfectly fine. That's kind of what we want. So we're going to line these up. Okay, we're just lining up this part, and you're going to sew across the top, and you're going to press to the green. And when you're done, you're going to have units that look like this. Okay, they're pressed to the green. And what we're going to do is flip them around, flip one of them around, so that when we sew them together, we have that gap. So this may start to look a little bit familiar to you. So we're going to put these together, and we're going to sew down this long side. We have our gap in between our seam allowance, so we're going to do a little clip, and we're going to press so that our units go in opposite directions. So we're keeping our square as a square. Then we're going to do some marking, and we're going to mark, just like before, across the intersection of our block. Okay, so we've got a seam here and a seam here. This is where we want to put our mark. And I'm going to use my Tucker trimmer, and I'm going to put the diagonal, 45-degree diagonal on the edge of my block, and I'm going to scoot it up until I am right at my intersection. Okay, my intersection is right there. And then we're going to draw lines. We're going to turn it around. We're going to do the same thing. Line up your 45-degree on the edge. Bring it up till it hits your intersection, and then we're going to draw lines. These lines become your sewing lines, okay, if you'll remember that. Take our large rectangle, we're going to put him together with our unit that we just did. You're going to sew on these lines, and you're going to cut apart 1/4 inch away from each of the lines so that you end up with 2 blocks. So when you end up with your blocks, they're going to look like that. just like our shaded 4-patch blocks. And now we need to trim them down. So mine are getting trimmed to 4.5. So I'm going to put my 4.5-inch sizing guide on my long seam. The common diagonal goes through our little intersection right there. And we're going to trim. Turn it around. Put the square up lines for 4.5 on the edge. Our 4.5 diagonal is still on our seam, and the intersection at the common diagonal still goes through our center. And there you have it. We have a flock of birds. And when I was going through this, I wish I'd made a couple more samples for you, because see if you can do some imagining. If we had 4 of these together, you see what's going to happen? You're going to end up with a square, inside a square, inside a square, inside a square. So this is a fun little block that you can do and make that kind of a block really quick and easy. You could also, let's see, set them this way, so that if you're doing a border, you've got a fun little diagonal going through there. Lots of different options, just like with our shaded 4-patch. So this is Flock of Birds, and I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you next time.